Thank you. Welcome to the 15th of May Council meeting. Just a mobile phone reminder, please turn off your mobile phones, or in emergency just advise me or switch them to silent. Firstly, I'd like a statement of acknowledgement. The Bass Coast Shire Council acknowledges the Bunurong as the traditional owners and custodians of the land, the water, and pay our respects to their elders past, present, emerging, and for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture and the law. Bass Coast Shire Council celebrates the opportunity to embrace and empower the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities in their diversity. Bass Coast Shire Council will create opportunities for future recognition and respectful partnerships that will honour the traditional owners and custodians and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Thank you. We'll move on. Councillor Holstead will read the councillor statement. Thank you, Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. All members of this council pledge to the Bass Coast Shire community to consider every item listed on today's agenda based on the individual merits of each item without bias or prejudice by maintaining an open mind and disregarding councillors' personal interests as to avoid any conflict with our public duty. Any councillor having a conflict of interest in an item will make a proper prior disclosure to the meeting and will not participate in the debate or vote on the issue. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Item 1, President apologies. There are no apologies for this meeting, so we'll move on to declarations of interest. Councillor Lark has declared a conflict of interest in agenda item 8.3, Surf Parade Inverloch Shed Pathway, Stage 3B alignment. So that's been recorded. Thank you. We'll move on to item 3, which is confirmation of minutes. The minutes held on the 20th of March, that the amended minutes for council meeting for the 20th of March 2024 be confirmed. Councillor request for a mover. Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Seconder? Councillor Bauer, thank you. Those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Thank you, Councillor Lark. Item 3.2 is the council meeting held on the 17th of April 24, that the minutes of the council meeting be confirmed for April the 24th, 17th of April 24. Councillor to move. Councillor Ellis, thank you. Councillor Bauer, thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Item 4 on the agenda is Mayor and Councillor reports. I'll request that councillors forego speaking for the monthly reports, and these will be recorded in the minutes so that people can review them there. But firstly, I'd like to take this opportunity to read a statement regarding the environmental audit overlay. The last few weeks have been very challenging for some of our community who live, are building or planning to build in the Wonthaggi North East Precinct Structure Plan area. Please be assured that through the CEO, Greg Ross, and our senior planning officers, council are constantly in touch with the state government, the Victorian Planning Authority, the EPA, which is Environmental Protection Authority, to resolve this issue as quickly as possible. It is imperative that a solution is found, and it is a priority that residents are kept informed correctly at this stage. It may take some time for the authorities to work through the processes, as it is a very complex planning issue. I have sent a letter to the Minister for Planning stressing the urgency of this matter. Please encourage all residents that are or thinking that they may be affected by this overlay to contact council. A duty planner is available to speak to you about your concerns. I also encourage you all, if you haven't already done so, sign up to and get updates from the council. And you can do this via our planning applications at basscoast.vic.gov.au or calling our customer service officers Regular communications will be sent by council officers as information regarding, as soon as it comes available, the residents will be told. On behalf of the council, I thank you for your patience in what we understand has been a very stressful and difficult time for many. So thank you. The public question time, item 5. And I'll ask Ms. Tilley to please read the question and Mr. and Greg Fox, our CEO, to read the response. Thank you, Ms. Tilley.
Question 1 is from Graham Davey. The topic is Surf Beach, Sunderland Bay roads and drainage. Council stated the upgrade project or special charge scheme will proceed in any form as the majority of residents have objected. Why, in less than 5 months, has council gone back on their word and proposed to upgrade all areas of Surf Beach, Sunderland Bay over the next few years?
Through the Mayor, council is currently undertaking a review of its urban roads and drainage improvement policy. This is undertaken every 5 years and includes a review of how project areas are configured and prioritised. The draft policy was exhibited for community feedback from 12th of April until the 12th of May. Feedback from the consultation process will inform priority areas going forward.
Question 2 is from Ross Bencraft. Topic Surf Beach, Sunderland Bay roads and drainage. This question is in 2 parts. Part 1. During the abandonment of the Sunderland Bay Surf Beach Special Charge Scheme in the Bass Coast Shire Council meeting of December 2023, Councillor Rooks stated that Council was looking to put $7 million into the project. Can Council advise what has been / will be done with these intended funds?
Through the Mayor, these funds are council funds and borrowings allocated in council's long-term financial plan for the purposes of urban road and drainage upgrades. Funding will be allocated to the next highest priority project and considered through council's budget process.
Part 2. Under Bass Coast Shire Council's updated roads and drainage priority list, the Esplanade in Surf Beach is now its first priority. If a special charge scheme process for this specific area is announced, who will ultimately vote to determine if its proceeds only immediately adjacent ratepayers or all ratepayers of Sunderland Bay?
Through the Mayor, property owners directly adjacent to the upgrade area will be able to make a submission and/or objection in accordance with the Local Government Act 1989.
Question 3 is from Graham Davey. Topic urban roads and drainage upgrades. For transparency and to enable ratepayers insight into council decision making, would council please provide detailed assessment criteria council used to determine both 2019 and 2024 urban roads and drainage upgrade priority lists, as both have very different numeric values and change priorities. Please provide full calculations for both lists.
Through the Mayor, the assessment criteria will be made available with the final draft urban road and drainage improvement policy as part of the review process. The 2019 engineering calculations are not available, but an explanation of the weightings of the criteria will be made available as part of the current review process.
Question 4, Louise Lyle. Topic electric vehicles. Why does council continue to buy EVs for council staff when council could be doing environmentally better for Bass Coast by installing gross pollutant traps on all residential stormwater discharge points and trash racks on stream discharges into the ocean and the bay to help prevent contamination of our waters?
Through the Mayor, council's commitment to protecting and enhancing the natural environment of Bass Coast is applied across a range of strategic sustainability programs, including transitioning council's vehicle fleet to zero emissions EVs and improving waterway health through revegetation and stormwater management. Council currently manages more than 40 gross pollutant traps across the Shire. Council's draft drainage asset management plan also includes an action to investigate additional gross pollution traps at outfalls across the Shire.
Question 5, Louise Lyle. Topic Phillip Island car parking. In 2023, council waived the requirement for approximately 1,000 car parks for commercial developments on Phillip Island. When is council going to tell the public how council will mitigate this parking shortfall and improve the lives of Phillip Island residents and visitors into the future?
Through the Mayor, council has commenced the development of an integrated transport strategy. This strategy will include reference to all modes of transport and will provide a strategic direction for transport and land use planning, including an effective approach to management of car parking for council going forward. Community engagement will occur in coming months and the strategy is anticipated to be in place later this year.
Questions 6 and 7 are on the same topic of draft budget 2024-2025 operational waste costs. Gina Rosamilia asks, an operational waste cost component of rates only rate cap is expensed by council for waste garbage pickups at council buildings, streetscapes and foreshores. What is that operational cost dollars portion of the $17,310,926 total waste income as per the 24-25 draft budget? Graham Jolly also asks, page 63, draft budget 2024-25 reports an estimated total waste income of $17,310,926 for curbside collection for rateable properties. Council's curbside waste for streetscapes, foreshores and council buildings incurs cost. How much of the waste charged to rateable properties is for streetscapes, foreshore and council buildings?
Through the Mayor. Bass Coast Shire Council determines the annual waste service charge using a cost recovery model. This recovers the net operating cost associated with Council's waste management service, as well as a rolling annualised average of projected waste management capital and non-capital project expenditure. More detail on the performance of Council's waste services can be found at the Know Your Council website, www.vic.gov.au Know Your Council.
Question 8 is from Kevin Griffin. Topic is mayoral chains. Last month, Council advised that Victoria Police informed Council that they have received insufficient evidence to progress an investigation into the theft of the mayoral chains and road. Will Council now make a complete and unedited copy of the Victoria Police report freely available to the community?
Through the Mayor, a written report was not provided to Council by Victoria Police.
Question 9 is from Melissa Dagg. Topic, councillor briefings. Would Council please explain why councillor briefing meetings generally are very lengthy in time when the local government minister stated briefing meetings are not to debate or resolve a matter for voting purposes? VCAT has ruled councillors are permitted to document on request.
Through the Mayor, Council does not make decisions at briefings or discuss voting. Information is provided and discussed. All decision making by councillors is done by resolution and a council vote at the council meeting.
Question 10 comes from Mario Boffa. Topic, tracks and trails, Wonthaggi to Inverloch. The draft budget 2024-25 capital works allocated $3.7 million to tracks and trails, which is for the inland shared pathway from Wonthaggi to Inverloch. Please provide both the cost benefit analysis and environmental impact results findings reports.
Through the Mayor, this information is publicly available on Council's Engage Bass Coast page.
Question 11, Graham Jolly. Topic, Wonthaggi North East Precinct. The state government has shut down and walked away from the Wonthaggi North East Precinct, a large housing development, while cost shifting $25 million to council for social affordable housing and emergency housing. What is council planning to do? Please advise.
Through the Mayor, the Wonthaggi North East Precinct Structure Plan was finalised by the Victorian Planning Authority in January 2024. The Bass Coast region was allocated $25 million for social and affordable housing as part of the state government big housing bill. These funds sit with Homes Victoria and are being utilised for a range of projects across the Shire.
Question 12 and 13 are on the same topic of capital advancement, capital works. John Kuzma asks, Council has $4.410 billion of rates money for capital advancement capital works in the current 2023-24 budget. Why is Council proposing an additional $892,000 in the next budget 2024-25 out of rates money? Terry Parkin also asks, why is Council proposing to add $892,000 towards capital advancement for capital works in the next budget 2024-25 out of rates money? Please explain.
Through the Mayor, due to a range of factors including material shortages, price escalations and contractor availability, Council created a capital advancement budget in 2021-22. As the market has stabilised, the annual allocation has dropped and it is anticipated that 24-25 will be the last year that an allocation is required.
14, Nina Rosamilia. Topic, beach safety signs. Council maintains over 250 beach entry safety warning signs on land council managers. The content of signs is audited by council. What date did a council officer last conduct an audit of the 250 signs?
Through the Mayor, Council officers inspect beach entry warning signs as part of regular operations, including before and during peak summer periods and in response to reports of damage. Maintenance and upgrade works are arranged as required to adhere to relevant Australian standards.
Question 15 from Mario Boffa, topic roadside pickup. Would council please provide for each 3 waste bin, the red, yellow and green bins, the number of bin pickups from the 1st of July 2023 to the 31st of March 2024, which is 9 months of the year?
Through the Mayor, between the 1st of July 2023 and the 31st of March 2024, Council's curbside service collected 409,610 red landfill bins, 409,319 yellow recycle bins, and 584,956 green organics bins.
Question 16 is from Fred Morris, topic roadside pickup. Page 62, draft budget 2024/2025 reports farm zone rateable properties 999. What is the number of farms that do not pay council for the 3 bin or additional waste garbage bin roadside pickup?
Through the Mayor, garbage charge is applied to all rateable properties in the curbside collection service area. Properties outside the standard collection zone, including farms, can opt into the curbside service and incur a waste charge subject to feasibility of property access.
Question 17, Fred Morris, topic BMX and Pump Track Advisory Committee. Council formed an advisory committee to a review of BMX and Pump Track suggested locations chaired by Councillor Halstead, Deputy Mayor. Would council please provide the names of the committee members along with the townships they permanently live in?
Through the Mayor, the reference group consists of representatives from each of the 3 wards. However, their names cannot be disclosed for privacy reasons.
Question 18, Annette Sikora, topic Environment Audit Overlay. Is the council's plan to have the environmental audit overlay removed from the already titled properties, leaving the landowners wondering if their land is contaminated or to get the testing done? Does the EAO only impact building permits being issued, or does it also impact certificates of occupancy?
Through the Mayor, the EAO will impact both building permits and certificates of occupancies. Council continues to work with the Victorian Planning Authority and the Environment Protection Authority to ensure that the level of risk is assessed appropriately. The overlay will not be removed without appropriate assessments being completed.
Question 19, Kevin Griffin, topic Environment Audit Overlay. GHD's April 2016 report to council identified many properties in the Wonthaggi North East growth area having potential for contamination. Why did council not take action to conduct further studies or implement planning controls over the affected property, as was contained within the recommendations section of the GHD report?
Through the Mayor, areas identified as having a high potential of contamination were further investigated in 2019. Legislation at the time did not require this further work to be carried out on low and medium risk areas.
Question 20, Joel Pendleton, topic Environment Audit Overlay. There's 2 parts to this question. 1, was the Boulevard was the Boulevard notified by or on behalf of Bass Coast Shire Council or VPA that they would need an environmental audit done before developing the land situated in now Powlett Ridge Estate? Was the property owner who sits on the board of directors for the Boulevard notified by or on behalf of Bass Coast Shire Council or the VPA that they would need an environmental audit done before developing the land situated in now Powlett Ridge Estate?
Through the Mayor, the Victorian Planning Authority were responsible for all communication during the amendment process, and council is unable to comment on specifically who was notified during this process.
Question 21 is from Arthur Sakura, topic Environment Audit Overlay. The council were able to send us our supplementary valuation and rate statement to our address in Melbourne for us to pay. Why have we not been notified by the council of the environmental audit overlay applied to our title? In certain circumstances, new valuations must be determined in between the Victorian Government's yearly revaluation. These are known as supplementary valuations and are required when property changes affect the property's value. Will council be seeking new valuations for the affected properties due to the EAO impacting the value of the properties?
Through the Mayor, Council was not notified of the extent of properties impacted by the EAO until the amendment was approved in January. The VPA were responsible for all communication during the amendment process. Council will be using the 2024 revaluation figures to determine the rates applicable to a property for the 2024-25 financial year. The 2024 revaluation of properties uses the date 1st of January 2024 as the base date for the valuation of all properties. Ratepayers have an option to object to their valuation for a period of 60 days after the issue of the rate notices.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Thank you, Mr. Box. We'll move on to notice of motion, item 6.1. Councillor Bauer has an item, the 24 parking report for Phillip Island. Councillor Bauer, will you introduce your report without actually speaking to it, the notice of motion?
Thank you. If I could, the officers put the amended motion up on the screen, please. Thank you. Would you like to talk?
Introduce the report.
Yeah, I'll
Speaking to it before I call for somebody.
Thank you. The amended report is a tweaking of the original motion lodged with council, and it's to deal with the car parking situation.
Thank you. Have I got a councillor to second that notice of motion? Thank you, councillor Holstead. Councillor Bauer?
Madam Mayor, fellow councillors and ratepayers watching this meeting, it's important to note that this motion doesn't negate the intentions of the Shire-wide integrated transport strategy. That study will take at least a year to be completed and adopted. I'm gratified to note that the officer's report accompanying this motion agrees with most of the initiatives of this motion. This motion does not require extra resources to be expended by council. Points 2, 3 and 4 can be easily introduced for the next holiday season. I thank Councillor Ellis for his contribution to point 4 of this motion and will leave it to him to elaborate on the disabled parking spots. Few issues are more spoken about on Phillip Island than parking. Without a rail link, there's only one way to get there. That's either by car or bus. Phillip Island's population at least doubles, if not triples, in the summer months, long weekends and school holidays. In the officer reports, it states, reduce the need of parking bays and the management of on-street parking in town centres. My motion deals with parking on streets adjacent to the town centre. It also draws attention to parking at the 2 boat ramps. I appreciate the issue of planning waiver does need the planning department's input, and I'm glad to see the officer's report will be looking at that. We have an inefficient use of the large car parks in cars and rail boat ramps. Except for a few days of the year, nearly all the bays of the cars with trailers only lie idle. Officers should look at changing the parking signs so that cars without trailers can use the parking bays. As an example, let's look at the impending Real Brewery with its 90 car park waiver. If the Real Boat Ramp car park was opened up to single car use during the year, the parking situation for the brewery and all businesses on the Esplanade would greatly benefit. Our local residents are being inconvenienced by cars being parked on nature streets, especially near the caravan parks. Turning out of various side streets, for example, Kenner Road, opposite the NRMA site, is a serious accident waiting to happen. One suggestion is to erect bollards with ropes so the intersections are kept clear and oncoming traffic can be seen. In the last year, with the cultural centre being completed, the community hospital being built, and approval for the hotel next to the cultural centre being granted, and the signage for smart parking pointing cars to the transit centre will become the messianic panacea for our parking woes. My motion asks, as part of the ITS, to look into a public-private partnership to increase the capacity of the transit centre. The community implores us to tackle the parking situation on Phillip Island for the cavalcade of cars that regularly descend on the island.
30 seconds.
I recommend the motion to the chamber.
Thank you, councillor Bauer. Councillor Holstead?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I thank Councillor Bauer for this notice of motion that seeks to elevate the importance of the provision of car parking in our townships. I understand Council is working on the integrated transport study and officers have advised that car parking will form part of this study. I'm also aware of the significant waivers that have been provided as part of large development applications to council in recent times. For this reason, I'll be supporting Councillor Bauer in his attempt to ensure that the car parking element of this study is specifically highlighted and addressed. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Is there any further discussion from councillors? Councillor Ellis?
Thank you, Mayor. I thank Councillor Bauer for his diligence and his consultation through the process with this. We've been working on this motion for a couple of months now. A lot of work gone into it. I support his efforts and his sentiments. I agree with Councillor Halstead with what she said. And in particular, in relation to item number 4, as Councillor Bauer highlighted, I've been doing a little bit of work in the background of that. And a few weeks back, I spoke with one of our Western Port Ward constituents who is totally independent, except for the fact that she's dependent on a wheelchair. To deploy that wheelchair when she goes shopping, she has to open the doors of the car very wide and remove the wheelchair from the back seat. So she goes, as a constituent from Western Port, she travels to Cowes quite a bit to do shopping and social events, and also into Wonthaggi. There's been a few times this year where she hasn't been able to find a parking spot wide enough for her to be able to open those doors to deploy the wheelchair. And she's had to go back home and come back another day. I think this highlights the fact that we need to do something very soon about providing wider and more accessible and also wider parking spots for this sort of occurrence. And I think that highlights the need to do something soon and bring forward with the work we're doing in that area. I commend the motion.
Any other councillors would like to have further discussion on this notice of motion? Councillor Rooks?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Sir. There is no need for this notice of motion because most of the points that are there, or the ideas that are there, have been covered off in the integrated transport study, which has been spoken about. And what this does is this will end up directing the integrated transport study. It'll force it to look at these areas. What should happen is that the integration transport study should be formed via research from the council officers and then go out to community consultation. And this is preempting that community consultation. And so it's poor decision making, poor governance, and I don't agree with the notice of motion.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. Any further discussion? Councillor Whelan?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, I tend to agree with Councillor Rooks. This is neither good strategy or good governance. The council approved an integrated transport strategy some months ago that has the brief of doing issues. Parking will be a part of that. It shouldn't be led by parking. So this does direct officers, whether you can say to the contrary, but by virtue of it going through a council resolution, it directs officers. We should not do that. The way to good governance is by reviewing the progress of the project, coming back with a community engagement, making sure these issues are covered up in that consultation. That's good governance. Answers masquerading as policy, as this resolution is, don't get us there. The reason I highlight the poor governance, because notices of motion that direct councils when there's already strategic positioning that try to deflect strategy, or why the municipal observers have been extended in the city of Geelong. And if you read the report, it's one of the key reasons that they're actually extended there. We need to be more careful with notices of motion. And firstly, we need to understand governance. We need to understand strategy. The blasé inclusion of private-public partnerships in here is a big issue. It's been written off as just a feasibility study. Feasibility studies are not like things. They're going to cost money. So this is driving cost in the budget as well without actually considering any budget implications. So I think that is, again, poor governance. And the issue around public-private partnerships, they're going to require at least a 10% return on their investment. 10% return, let's say this costs 15 million, that's $1.5 million out of council's budget each year just to pay off the private partners. So we're looking at things like paid parking. Now, if we're going to deal with those sorts of issues, let's deal with them as policy issues and discussions in our communities and not start driving these things in ill thought out notices of motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any further discussion from Councillor Lang?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I fully appreciate the intentions of councillor Bauer and his intentions to attempt to solve parking problems. However, I think this motion does put the cart before the horse, and I won't labour that. I think the point has already been made, but it's in essence asking for a report on a report. And my concern also is that it is unnecessarily Phillip Island centric. The problems of people with a disability are across the Shire, and they're problems that I've heard from the community, and being as well the chair of the Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee. I think it's appalling that a person, one resident, couldn't find parking, disabled parking, but I think that that's a problem across the Shire. So the fact that this motion only talks about the problems of parking in Phillip Island is why it's concerning, in addition to the fact that it is essentially asking for a report on a report without proper consultation with our community. I think that they go broader than just Phillip Island, and I'm really looking forward to the outcomes of the integrated transport strategy without this kind of manoeuvring.
Thank you, councillor Lang. Any further discussion from any other councillors? Okay, back to you, councillor. Would you like to, councillor Bauer, conclude?
Thank you. Fellow councillors, the initiatives of this motion are common sense. This motion does not require the use of extra resources, as councillor Whelan has just said, I don't believe. This motion is not contrary to the ITS. When the Shire-wide ITS is adopted down the road, the enacted measures of this motion will form part of the overall strategy. I lodge this motion on behalf of the Phillip Island community. Madam Mayor, please put the motion to a vote.
Thank you. Those councillors in favour of the notice of motion? So that's those against? That's lost. Thank you.
Division, please, Mayor.
Thank you. Those for? Councillor Bauer, councillor Holstead, councillor Ellis. Those against? Oh, sorry, councillor Clark online. Those against? Councillor Lasserve, councillor Lang, councillor Rooks, councillor Wheeler, and councillor Tassari. Thank you. That's. We'll move forward to, there was no petitions, joint letters, deputations or correspondence to deal with. Reports requiring council decision 8.1, the quarterly report. Ms. Tilly, could you please introduce the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report provides council and the community with an update on the third quarter performance for our annual action plan, capital works program and financial results, and includes forecasts for full year results. Key highlights for this quarter include completion of detailed designs for the Wonthaggi Streetscapes Master Plan, a draft mountain bike BMX pump strategy, and the final public consultation for the housing strategy and neighbourhood character strategy. Council's capital works program is progressing well, with 30% of projects complete, 57 underway and 27 million expended at the end of the quarter. There was also improvement in council's forecast adjusted underlying net result, with a $159,000 deficit compared to a budgeted underlying deficit of $500,000. The quarterly performance report will be available on council's website. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor to move the quarterly report. Councillor Rooks. Councillor to second. Councillor Holstead. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Mayor Sir, and thank you, Ms Tilly, for introducing the report, and you've covered up quite a few of the parts of the report, and I'm happy to receive this report. It does show that council is in a sound financial position and that we continue our focus on our annual action items. There is plenty of information in the report. Having read the full report, there is lots for people to learn. I encourage people in the community to also read the report because it's full of information about what goes on at council, what we're doing. So I thank you for doing the report and I'm happy to support it.
Okay, thank you, councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to highlight a couple of things in the report. The MTB BMX pump strategy, and thank officers for their efforts there. As the chair of this reference group, I have been impressed by the experience offered by members and have also been grateful for feedback I have received following the release of the draft for public consultation. There's been significant feedback and exciting feedback, so I'm really happy to see that. There's still some work to do to get it right. However, the community is well versed in these recreational activities, and they really are keenly offering their experienced feedback for council's consideration. The housing strategy and neighbourhood character strategy is now being completed. These are two critically important documents for council's use in the pursuit of protecting our community's history and characteristics, both of which in recent times have been neglected by the cookie cutter approach imposed on council through the state government planning regulations that have continued to strip away the ability for communities to protect the very things they love about where they live. I congratulate the finance team for steering the financial ship through a challenging and volatile economic time, and wish to encourage council to continue to seek savings, as with the release of the Victorian government budget last week and the federal budget last night, it doesn't look promising and there seems to be stormy seas ahead. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Any other discussion? Councillor Tessari.
Just quickly, a couple of things. Congratulate Councillor Holstead on her continual drive on the pump track. That has been one of her pet projects, and you could hear in her excitement as she spoke about that. Also to our finance team that gave it to us between the eyes in a couple of meetings that we had to, be a little bit careful moving forward. They've done a fantastic job in continuing to hear our wants and our requests, but also keep us on track. So great job by them, and it's great to see almost the end of the housing strategy and the neighbourhood character strategy, because they seem to have been going on forever. So good result.
Very good. Any further discussion, councillors? No. Councillor Rooks? Vote, or further discussion?
To vote.
Those in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. Those against? Thank you. That's carried. Next item.
For a division on that.
Yes, Councillor Ellis. A division, those in favour? Councillor Lasserve, Councillor Lang, Councillor Rooks, Councillor Whelan, Councillor Tessari, Councillor Holstead, Councillor Bauer and Councillor Ellis. Those against is Councillor Lark. Thank you. Moving on. 8.2 Value Street West Road Upgrade. Ms Taylor, could you please introduce the report?
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek a council decision regarding the construction of a 60-metre section of Value Street West in Wonthaggi. Following receiving a petition in November 2023, council resolved to work with property owners to investigate treatments and potential funding arrangements. As a result of this process, it is recommended that the road be constructed of concrete, with contributions sought from adjoining landowners to realise this project. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor to move the recommendation, Councillor Lang and Councillor Tessari. Thank you, Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This was one of those easy consultation processes. There's only two affected residents who will be contributing to the project. That is, as I've seen personally, it is a very well-used street and it's not by the residents. It's actually quite a short street. It's pretty much used by people navigating to the school. There is quite a lot of dust on that road and it's very well worn, so it's great to see this project go ahead, and I commend it to the chamber.
Thank you, Councillor Tessari.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Couldn't agree more. It's one of those situations that when you look at it, it's quite ridiculous to see it there. So it's fantastic that it's going to be fixed up and completed, and it'll be better off for the residents that live there and for everybody else that walks that little bit of stretch and also drives it. So great result.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any councillors like to add anything? No? Councillor Lang?
Put it to a vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Those in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. 8.3 Surf Parade Inverloch Shed Pathway Stage 3B alignment. Councillor Lark has got a conflict of interest in this item, so he will leave the meeting. So we'll just pause while he does that. He's gone. Thank you. Ms Taylor, will you introduce the report, please?
The purpose of this report is to present the outcomes of the recent community engagement process on the alignment of Stage 3B of the Surf Parade Path project in Inverloch. This report also addresses a petition received regarding the project. The report outlines the results of the community engagement process and advice received from the Department of Energy, Environment and Climate Change, which indicated that the coastal reserve cannot be utilised for this project. The report recommends that a one-way option with inclusion of parking on one side of the road is the preferred alignment for the path. If approved, next steps for the project will include commencement of the statutory process to make the section of the road one-way. In addition, additional funds required to complete the project will be considered as part of the 25-26 budget process. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Have I got a councillor move the recommendation? Thank you, councillor Lang.
Thank
A
you.
seconder, councillor Tesari. Thank you, councillor Lang.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've gone back to the drawing board quite a few times over the years for this one. This is the second time in a couple of years it's gone before council. When I ran for council way back when, it was one of the commitments was to deliver the Inverloch shared pathway that has since 2019 been beset by significant constraints. Since that time, since 2019, we've had funding and stakeholder and community work that went into developing the Cape to Cape Coastal Resilience Project. And that project fed into the modelling that is guiding the impacts of, well, not guiding the coastal erosion, but is actually modelling the coastal erosion in Inverloch. And as a result, as Ms Taylor mentioned, that the Department of Environment, Energy and Climate Action has used the work undertaken to make their determination on vegetation removal on that foreshore. Over the years, I've met with both current and previous presidents of the Inverloch Tourism Association, loads and loads of community members, and also the recent head petitioner of the recent petition for council. And I wanted to thank them all for their time and all the other community residents I've discussed the issue with. I've also met with the leadership of the South Gippsland Conservation Society a number of times and attended the town hall meeting last year to hear the community's concerns. From the feedback I've received and my fellow councillors have received, we have pursued these queries with council officers and they have worked incredibly hard to find a solution under very limited space constraints. The consensus, though, that I've had from the community and from council officers and from many rounds of consultation is that the community need a shared path and they have waited a very, very long time to see it delivered. And since 2023, when we deferred the decision, we have explored a number of options and even saw even more detailed responses from DECA. The consultation and the surveys that we have done show that the majority of people want to get the path done. This has always been the priority, so that when young families or whoever want to get out of the car, adults don't have to anxiously supervise a busy road to get to the beach, nor do people with a disability or accessibility limitations have to walk along a very dangerous road, navigating it with other vehicles. This path, I'm sure there will be some, adjustment challenges and there will be further work that will be undertaken. And it's not the end of finding parking solutions on that road. I'm sure that we will also be going back to the drawing board as well and finding hopefully more space to provide some traffic treatments in that area. So, I commend this motion.
Thank you, councillor Lang. Councillor Tesari.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apparently before my time, when I first come onto council over 100 years ago, it feels like this was already a project that was in high demand. The project was originally stopped because of the lack of parking in the strip. It's been rejigged. It's been gone out to consultation, I don't know how many times. It's had new variations of the plans put forward. It's time for this part to be finished. I've heard from so many people that the priority to this project is the path. Councillor Lang just touched on it. No one in the community would deny that. Number one is to get the path. Number two that I've heard, majority of people is the parking. The only way we can get the pathway and the parking as it is right now is with the one-way strip. So I understand the frustration with people because this has been going on for so long, but to send in emails and to make the comments as such that let's just do it the way it was and don't worry about what DECA say, don't work that way. They're a state government that we have to get permission off to do the project. They've told us umpteen times now that they're not going to give us permission to take away the foreshore, and it would be irresponsible to take away the foreshore anyway when it's taken, I think, almost 60 metres from the other direction. So why would we cut in this side when we can avoid it? We've done this sort of thing before, turned two ways into one ways, and it's worked fantastically. Okay, not to this scale, but we did it on the Esplanade at Cowes, and it's become a real nice little vista, I guess, where you can wander along and there's room for community members to walk, bike riders to ride, and also the cars to still travel along. I'm sure that this is going to cause grief to the people that live in that area because change does cause grief, but I know that we can work together to come up with a solution that is going to be fitting, and in that, I'm more than comfortable to vote on the recommendations put forward.
Thank you, Councillor Tessari. Any further discussion? Any other councillors? Councillor Whelan?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'd just like to support the mover and seconder. It must have been the same 100 years that I think I've been involved in this issue. It actually was 2017 we first dealt with this, and then we heard its history, and I understand Mayor Lasserve, you've lived the earlier history of it as well. It's been around for a long time. 5 years of funding has been sitting there. And I'm of the view, if we can't land it today, then it's time to parking will come into, we'll park the project, move on to something else, because you've got to, at some point, make a decision. I think we're at that point. In terms of, just want to make a comment about the coastal vegetation and say, I've heard the arguments about let's just do it. If coastal vegetation is important, I'm not sitting here blaming DECA because I support us retaining that coastal vegetation. As Councillor Tessari said, it is fundamentally important. We've lost 70 metres of dunes system leading up behind the Life-Saving Club there. I'm speaking at a conference in a few weeks' time, and Inverloch is the really bad example of coastal erosion I'll be using. This is not to be sneezed at, and the role of that coastal vegetation is fundamentally important, not just from an ecological and habitat perspective, but from that coastal erosion perspective. So get over those sorts of arguments, because you'll never get my support for taking out coastal vegetation for anything like this. Then the opposition, I'll note, is always vehement, and it purports to speak for everyone. But we know that there's division on this. There's no doubt there's division on it. And that's why it comes back to us to make a decision.
Thank you, Councillor Whelan. Councillor Rooks?
I'll go first.
Sorry, I didn't see you in there.
Thank you, Mayor Lasserve.
Looking the wrong way.
I just wanted to recognise again that it is a priority of the community to have this pathway. It was ranked in the top 6 pathways in the Tracks and Trails strategy. It's something the community wanted. And I'm really pleased that the outcome is a pathway, and we've also kept many car parks, and we've got a small one-way stretch of road as well. And so my message is congratulations to the community for their persistence, to the council officers for their persistence, and also for the councillors to hanging in there for all this length of time, and hopefully this gets voted on for the success of that project.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. Councillor Holstead, apologies.
It's all right. I think we were putting our hand up at exactly the same time, Madam Mayor, so you're forgiven. I just wanted to say that, sometimes we get these decisions come before council, and there's such a line ball in the community between those who agree and those who disagree, and then it comes down to us as councillors that have to make a decision. And I agree that with Councillor Whelan in that this sounds like it's been going on for a long time, way before I even walked into this chamber. So I am very much guided by my fellow councillors understanding the history of what's going on, but also as someone who was for a very long time part of a family that enjoyed the Inverloch Surf Beach, having had a cabin at the Gawrock Street Surfside Caravan Park, and wandering down that Baroque Street with my boogie board and kids in tow. I witnessed the erosion firsthand, and I remember seeing that life-saving tower not once get washed away, but twice, and continually being moved back and moved back. So I think it is very poignant in if there were ever an argument about coastal erosion, I agree with Councillor Whelan. Inverloch is something that you can hold up as an example of the damage that can be caused. So I am, as I say, guided by my colleagues who have had considerable consultation with their communities, and therefore I will be supporting the recommendation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion from any councillors? Okay, Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very briefly, I just wanted to highlight the last round of consultation that we had, the most recent round of consultation on this project. Apart from a couple of pop-ups, council heard from 616 people during the engagement period, and 100 people attended 2 drop-in sessions for the project. So I think when Councillor Halstead says it's aligned, the survey results do show that. But yeah, we do need to take some leadership on this at some point. So I'm happy to put it to a vote.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Those councillors who are in favour of the recommendation? Oh, Councillor, yes, those against?
If you're counting more than 8, you're in trouble.
No, I was looking for Councillor
He's out of the room.
Clark. He wasn't here. Councillor, I didn't see your hand. You were in favour of it? Okay, thank you. That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Councillor Lark needs to be brought back, invited back to the meeting. Just pause for a moment. So we can... Look, I'll start with that. He won't be much longer, I'm sure. Item 8.4, review of the Drainage Service Asset Management Plan. Ms Taylor, will you please introduce the report?
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present to Council the Drainage Services Asset Management Plan 2024 to 2028 for consideration. The plan outlines the target levels of service and required funding to manage Council's existing drainage infrastructure. The plan demonstrates responsible management of Council's drainage assets and recommends long-term funding required to provide positive and sustainable drainage outcomes for our community. The report recommends adoption of the Drainage Services Asset Management Plan 2024 to 2028. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Taylor. Councillor to move the recommendation. Councillor Tessari. Seconder. Councillor Rooks, thank you. Councillor Tessari.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is one of those fantastic topics that we get to sit through and we enjoy. In all seriousness, though, the team that puts this report together are very passionate about what they do, done an amazing amount of work. It's a great report and I'm more than happy to.
Thank you. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Mayor Reserve. Yes, it is an extensive piece of work. There's been plenty gone into this, so thanks for the report, including the community consultation that went out. And there were a few ideas that came back and also ideas that officers looked at again. I'm pleased a couple of those is a new improvement plan action to develop a priority program that considers installing new pollutant litter traps at strategic stormwater outfalls is one of the things that's going to be looked at, which is a live topic now for the people of Brill. Also provide additional operating funds to partner with floodplain managers to conduct whole of catchment flood studies, which is very pertinent to do considering the climate we live in now and with climate change and the weather changing. So I'm glad those two things have been included in this. We also should recognise that as our assets grow, and our assets are growing in this area, that our cost will increase accordingly. So our budget does need to reflect that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hawkes. Any further discussion from any councillors? Councillor Lang?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say this motion is far from being a drainer.
Okay,
Help myself, but apart from that,
Should have.
I did want to say that it might not seem like some super exciting reading, but it's one of the things that actually affects every landowner here in the Shire. So it's a very important piece of work, and I also echo Councillor Tessari's acknowledgement of the work that's gone into it from council officers.
any further discussion?
I would just echo councillor Tessari saying about the officers. I've never seen officers so excited as they were in that briefing, and for the topic to be drainage was quite entertaining. And I must admit, I learnt a lot in that briefing and they made it really interesting. So I never thought I'd be interested in drainage, but there you go. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Any further discussion? No, councillor Tessari.
Happy to put it to a vote, Madam Mayor.
Those in favour of the recommendation? Thank you, that's carried. A delegation to award tender for drainage work in Bayview Avenue Inverloch. Ms. Taylor, introduce.
The purpose of this report is to seek authorisation from council to provide the Chief Executive Officer financial delegation to award the tender for drainage renewal and flood mitigation works at Bayview Avenue in Inverloch. Properties near Bayview Avenue, Garden Crescent, Western Grove and Pier Road in Inverloch have all experienced ongoing water issues. In response, treatment options were investigated with the appropriate mitigating treatment designed this financial year. The drainage renewal and flood mitigation works are now ready for delivery. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Have I got a councillor to move the recommendation? Thank you, councillor Tessari, a seconder. Thank you, councillor Lang. Councillor Tessari.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a fantastic news story for the residents in that area, because that is a constant issue that they've been facing for a long, long time. So to be at this stage now where there's actually light at the end of the tunnel, or the drain, is a great result. So happy to recommend.
Thank you. Councillor Lang.
Oh, nothing further. Thank you.
Any further discussion from any councillors? No, councillor Tessari.
Happy to put it to a vote.
Those in favour of recommendation?
Yeah.
Thank you, that's carried unanimously. 8.6, delegated authorities to the CEO for acceptance and execution of the loan quotation and documentation. Ms. Tilly, will you introduce that report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report recommends council give specific authority to enable the Chief Executive Officer to accept any loan quotation on council's behalf and to execute a new loan agreement on behalf of Bassett Shire Council for the consolidation of the existing $8 million interim loan facility with new borrowings of $4.574 million that were approved as part of the 23-24 budget. This will result in the existing interim loan facility being increased to $12.574 million. Thank you.
Thank you. Have I got a councillor to move the recommendation? Councillor Rooks. Seconder. Councillor Ellis. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The Treasury Corporation Victoria requires us to provide same-day acceptance of the loan offer that they provide. So this is a necessity that we should have to do. I support this recommendation.
Thank you, councillor Ellis.
Councillor Rooks has nailed it, I think. I have nothing further to add.
Ed, any further discussion from any councillors? Councillor Bauer.
Madam Mayor, fellow councillors and ratepayers watching this meeting, this report asks us for new borrowings of $4.574 million. Councillors, though we are reassured by the Finance Department we're still within the safety band of borrowings, we must look at how we allocate our resources. Every year since I've been a councillor, issues not from the 4-year plan or the council's long-year plan to us from left field. I just like to echo a bit of caution as we keep borrowing more and more money.
Thank you, councillor Bauer. Any further discussion? Councillor Whelan.
I think it's important to understand the role of loan funds in council's budget, and the Auditor General encourages actually loan funds to be spent in intergenerational projects. And so I think they play a crucial role. They're something that needs to be closely managed and monitored, and we stay within the guidelines, but we should not be regarding loans as a bad thing. They're one of the ways of funding the projects and spreading the cost over the generations, as in fact does occur. And as I say, as the Auditor General at the briefing at the Municipal Association of Victoria last year was at some pains to stress.
Thank you, councillor Whelan. Any other councillor like to add to the discussion?
I just wanted to make a point,
Councillor
Madam
Hosty.
Mayor,
Yes,
that, and probably through you to our CEO, my understanding in the report is that this loan's coming through Treasury, so we get a fairly good deal as far as the interest on the loan compared to the other banks.
That's my understanding. Through the Mayor, that's my understanding as well.
thank you.
Yeah, I tend to agree. The Auditor General does encourage us to borrow for intergenerational projects. And I also agree with Councillor Bauer's point that we still need to be mindful and be careful about how much we're borrowing. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Lang, yep,
Just briefly, Madam Mayor, my understanding is that all of this spending has been already authorised by councillors, that we're just deciding on whether to delegate the authority to the CEO for the acceptance and execution of the loans.
thank you. Councillor Brooks, would you like to add anything further or put?
No, but I do concur with what,
Councillor Lark had his hand up.
Sorry, I didn't see that. Councillor Lark?
Yes, on reflection, had we, over a number of years, addressed the operational aspects of our spending in council with a view to generating significant underlying operating surpluses over time, that had that strategy been adopted, the need for these borrowings would be lessened or eliminated totally. So I think we now are in a situation where we have no choice but to borrow in the circumstances outlined. I don't agree with that approach and have not agreed with that approach over the last 7 or 8 budgets. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Lark. No further discussion from the floor. Councillor Brooks, would you like to close?
yeah, the arguments have gone off track. It's not about
No.
whether this is appropriate to be getting this finance or not. That was already been decided in previous budgets, decisions that we made as a council group. This was not the discussion time for that argument.
Okay, to the vote. Thank you. Those councillors in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. That's carried. Those against? Thank you, councillor Lark. Right, we'll move on to 8.7, the councillor support and resources policy review. Ms. Tunstall, please introduce the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report recommends that council adopt the updated council support and resources policy in line with current practices and legislative requirements.
Good. Thank you.
The Mayor,
Yes, councillor Bauer.
I would like to move that we defer this report for 1 month.
Thank you. Do you have a second for that alternate recommendation, councillor Lang? Okay, there's no debate in it, then we just move to defer. Okay,
I move it be put.
you're happy to put that as a deferral. Those in favour of the deferral? Thank you, that's carried. Now we move on to the statutory reports. I request a councillor to move, with councillor Tessari as seconder. Thank you, councillor Lang. Agenda items 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, 9.4 be considered as a block. Those in favour of doing it as a block?
Look at that.
Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Got the dream.
that's carried. Thank you. Now, will any wishing to discuss any of the parts of the report? Thank you, councillor Lang.
Very briefly, I just wanted to highlight the work of the planning department that despite undertaking a lot of unforeseen extensive work on the acronym EAO, there's been a significant increase in the percentage of applications determined within the statutory timeframe of 60 days. So that means more people can get building and developing quicker. They're about 16% up on last month, and the responsible authority outcomes are up 20% as well. So well done to the team.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, to move the motion that all the recommendations in 9.1, 9.2, 9.3 and 9.4 be accepted. Councillor Tessari and Councillor Whelan. Thank you.
Oops. I apologise.
Is that you, Councillor Ellis?
Thank you. Phone policy.
Go back to that start.
Okay. Will those in favour vote? Oh, let's always get this.
Oh, yeah, that's what we were saying.
Yeah, that we've moved those and the discussion. Okay, now, urgent business. Councillor Holsted has indicated that she's got urgent business. Can you just speak to the New Haven Jetty? Introduce that, Councillor Holsted.
Do we have to speak?
Sorry, we've got to move that we accept the urgent business.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wish to move an item in urgent business relating to the closure of the New Haven Jetty that seeks further urgent advice from the Victorian State Minister for Environment contained in the drafted notice of motion.
So you're moving it. That's accepting it as an urgent business. Councillor Bauer, you're seconding the need for urgent business. Thank you. Okay, those in favour? Okay, thank you. That's accepted. Now, Councillor Holsted.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that Council draft a letter under signature of the Mayor to be sent to the Minister for Environment, the Honourable Steve Demopoulos MP, responsible for Parks Victoria, seeking the following. A, why has this locally significant infrastructure been allowed to deteriorate so significantly that indefinite closure is the only option? B, when and what alternative viable options were considered that could have allowed for safe accessibility? C, will the Minister commit to the repair or replacement of this jetty that is locally valued and used by tourists for the iconic views it provides of the San Remo Bridge to Phillip Island? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Bauer.
I think the motion says it all. It's a
No, sorry, Madam Mayor, that was me moving it.
I'll second.
Only
I
second.
need a seconder.
Okay,
So now do I speak to it? Is that what I was supposed to do?
Yeah, okay, you can speak to it, you.
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
Oh,
It's been a long meeting.
allow it.
Brains. Look, I've had a lot of contact from community about the closure of the jetty. It is a piece of infrastructure that's been enjoyed for a long time by local community right across the Shire, particularly young families who want to take their children fishing. It's a great little spot for that. There has been some talk about that being able to be achieved by moving people over to the San Remo jetty. I would argue that the San Remo jetty is a commercial operation over there. There is some fishing that takes place, but I would be a little concerned about the safety of children being moved from what is at the moment in New Haven quite a safe little spot to sit with a fishing line in, although it's not at the moment. And also it concerns me that for the tourist side of it, that it provides quite an iconic view of the San Remo Bridge, not only from the jetty itself, but the surrounding area of the beaches. It's just a great little spot in New Haven, and I think it's a real shame that it's been allowed to deteriorate to a point where it's being closed indefinitely. At the moment, we're hearing that there's no plans to either refurbish it, replace it, and I just think that's a really sad loss for our community and beyond. So I hope that councillors will support a letter from the Mayor going to the Minister asking for this infrastructure to be retained. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and fellow councillors and watching from the gallery. I have no speech because this wasn't up this morning, but I will say what Councillor Halstead has said is absolutely correct. The view from the Phillip Island Bridge coming from San Remo to Phillip Island, this is one of the first things you see. And I think it's an important first impact piece of infrastructure. And I would be very, very disappointed if this is not resurrected or replaced in a very short period of time. It does affect the whole amenity of the view of our area. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors like to have further discussion? Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor, and I apologise for my phone going off earlier. That was a very bad thing. Sorry about that. I've attended over the years, I've attended quite a few ratepay meetings of the New Haven Group over there, and they have constantly reiterated how important this facility is to them and how much they value it. And I think we need to make sure it's preserved and restored. Thank you.
Yeah. Any further discussion from any of the councillors? No? Okay. Councillor Halstead, would you like to?
Happy to put to the vote. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. The next meeting, that brings us to the close of this part of the meeting. The next meeting will be held on 19th of June here at the Civic Centre, and I just thank everybody for attending today. The next part of the meeting will be closed to the public under the section 66 of the Local Government Act to consider an item that they will deal with is council's business information being information that would prejudice council's position in a commercial negotiations if prematurely released. So the councillor to move that motion. Councillor Lang, thank you. The seconder. Oh, sorry, Councillor Tassari, thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. We'll close the meeting. Thank you very much for attending.